Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. I'm Sherry Zievenbergen. You were born, you're gonna die, and your adventure is your dash in between. So make the most of it. Unlock your potential in all aspects of your dash by embracing your uniqueness and living in a way that's authentic to you, not by doing more things, but by focusing on the right things. I'm a former corporate leader turned coach who's on my own journey, and I'm passionate about helping you on your journey too. So on the podcast, we'll explore how to live authentically by deciphering who you truly are and what you truly want. Are you ready to take a step toward designing your dash? Someday doesn't actually exist, so let's do it now. Hello, welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. This is Sherry Z here, and today I'm really excited to have my friend Mary McCarthy here with us. Mary is founder of Resilience and Grace, and she has been doing yoga and instructing yoga for 20 plus years. I'll let Mary take it from there and share all the details, but one of the reasons why I wanted to have Mary here today is because Mary has this presence that just creates a sense of calm. And I'm not the calmest person on the planet. And Mary allows me to be calmer than I usually am. And she just has this presence about her, which I know you're going to pick up on today. And so I really wanted her to join me, particularly around the holidays, because the holidays are not particularly calm. So, Mary, thank you so much for being here. Mary, I'm going to let you take it from here and share a little about yourself and a little bit about your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. I love being here. And Sherry, you bring the joy into my life. Whenever we're connecting, I find myself laughing more and I leave just your space more upbeat, and you give me permission to be myself and be goofy and just be real. And that is also what I take away from you. So it's really nice to be here. Yes, I am the founder of Resilience and Grace. And that, of course, is a journey whenever you're a solopreneur or wanting to start your own business and you're thinking about, like, what is my name going to be? What am I going to call it? And when I started teaching yoga in Des Moines back in 2000, I was just yoga by Mary. It was an easy thing to say. I just taught yoga. I kept going back and forth with, should it be yoga by Mary or yoga with Mary? Because yoga, I didn't create yoga, right? So why is it by me? But it sounded better. Yoga by Mary just rolls off the tongue.
I'm laughing, Mary, because these are the things that swirl through our brains as entrepreneurs, right? It's like, is it by or with? And then we sleep over these things. Anyway, go ahead. I totally understand.
Yes. And I knew you would. So, Yoga by Mary was my business name for a long time because I worked in the corporate wellness space while I was also teaching classes and getting married and having 3 kids and doing all the things. I stepped away from the corporate world in 2014. So after teaching for 14 years, and I had received my 200-hour training in Des Moines, and I just fell in love with the practice even more. So let me rewind a moment and take you, why did I start yoga? Because I just want to get to so much of it. But, the story is fun because in 2000 or even in 1999, when I figured it out and I was like, what is this? No one was doing it. No one was really doing yoga in Des Moines. I didn't really know what it was. I was a wellness intern at an insurance company, and this woman came and gave me a book and said, do you know how to do this? And it was like a yoga book. I had just received a degree in exercise science because I was an athletic trainer. And I knew a lot about the body. And I looked at the book and I was like, oh, I'm a fitness instructor. I can learn. I'll figure this out. And then, like anything, you learn what you don't know. And then you start learning more. And then you keep learning that you don't know more. And this perpetual cycle that I find, I am such a seeker. I love to learn and I love to do really holistic practices that bring me in the present moment. And I in the beginning, I didn't know that. I can say that now because when I went to my very first yoga class and I was 22, right out of school, my parents had been divorced for 4 years. I was in my very first long-term relationship. I had just graduated and moved to Des Moines into a big city. And when I was trying to figure out what is this whole practice of yoga, I thought, well, I got to go to a class. I better go see what this is like. And I did the practice. I was younger than everyone else by at least 20 years. And I was doing it. And, I was coming from a very fitness culture, a very performance oriented culture. And so to do yoga was not that way, at least the way that I was introduced to yoga. And when I found myself in Shavasana, the tears just flowed because I felt so much like me for the first time. I didn't have to do a practice where I compared myself to anyone else. I could just show up and do something that felt really good in my body. And so I was hooked. I was so hooked. And I was like, I need to learn more. I want to know more.
Mary, can I stop you for just a second? For anyone who hasn't done yoga, can you explain what Shavasana is?
Yeah, that's such a great question. In the practice of yoga, if you think about a lot of Eastern practices, they'll use that symbol, the yin and the yang symbol, because it's such an energetic flow, remembering that in darkness there is light and in lightness there is dark. And so when you're trying to find balance, the sister science to yoga is Ayurveda. And Ayurveda teaches that like attracts like. And so we tend to go towards things that make us do more what we already like. And so especially in our Western culture, we like to perform. We like to check the boxes. We like to do. It's much harder to practice being. In the practice of yoga, the asana is just 1/8 of the practice of yoga when you're looking at it from a very holistic perspective. And so it's really created to help the mind, help the body prepare to sit for meditation. And so to do that, you work your body, you move your energy, you open up your joints, you help all the systems be as healthy as they can be so that when you prepare to sit for meditation, the aches and pains are less. And so that transition from a lot of movement to maybe sitting in meditation is a bridge of Shavasana. And Shavasana is the last part of an asana practice where you just lay down and rest. And it teaches you to be. You're supposed to no longer do. You've done that already. And now you honor the space of just being without falling asleep, without trying to do some special meditation. You're just completely allowing everything to integrate and you're witnessing what comes up. So maybe in your practice, you might start noticing things in your physical body and it released an emotion. And maybe something that you did released a memory. Or maybe you did something and you're like, wow, I haven't been able to do that in a really long time. And then you feel a different sense of accomplishment. And so Shavasana is that integration of like, oh, let's just create this moment of acknowledging what is without forcing it to be something else.
That is such an unbelievable explanation. I generally think about it as the time at the end of yoga where you just lay there for a while. That's my explanation, Mary. That was far better than mine. And I got to tell you, the first time I did yoga and we had Shavasana, I had a really hard time just being. My mind was all over the place thinking, what is happening right now? How long are we going to do this? When are we going to do something else? Are we done? My brain was all over the place. So it's funny to me now because when I do it now, I really appreciate it and love that, because it's something I'm more accustomed to. But so can you tell us more about what was your reaction, I guess, kind of to yourself when you just kind of released all of that emotion the first time you did yoga and you were in Shavasana? Was your brain thinking, what is happening? Or was it just, what was going on?
It's been a while since I've reflected on that, but I guess today's answer, I felt finally accepted. In high school, I tore my ACL twice. And so I came from a small town where you played every sport, and I wanted to be really athletic and, of course, to be involved in all these different things. And when an injury took me out of that performance mindset, which led me to being an athletic trainer to understand supporting the emotional and psychological components, I did a practice that I was like, oh, like I don't have to show up for anybody else but me. It was also like ego wise kind of fun that I was younger than all these other folks. And it was like things were easy for me.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun too. But then of course, I got into it more, it was harder. It was hard to stay in it. But I learned so much, and it really helped me appreciate so many different perspectives and so many different ages, that my journey of yoga over the past 24 years has really been about making the practice accessible to all people, not just from an abled body perspective, because there's a lot of ableism in yoga as it's taught in the West. But also when we think about where people are at emotionally, especially if they've dealt with some trauma, where some poses from an untrained eye look like it's no big deal, but someone else, it could be very triggering. And so to create a sacred, safe space where people feel like they can just show up themselves, wearing whatever clothes they want to wear, looking however they want to look, doing whatever they want to do, even if all they want to do is come, do maybe a few poses, and they just need somewhere to go to rest. I love to give people permission, because it seems like sometimes that's what we need to hear, to just do what feels good. And we're so used to someone doing what other people are telling us to do that we are tapped out of that inner listening. And I really believe that's where the practice of yoga and meditation come in for us, and why it's such a journey, is that it invites you to step into the present moment again and again and again. And it doesn't matter what you did all the days prior, because what you offer is who you are right now. And I think because you can do yoga in a chair, you could do it on a very expensive yoga mat, you could do it in your socks, on the carpet. It does not matter.
I got to stop you for a second, Mary, because, okay, for whomever is listening right now, I just want you to think about how much calmer you probably are now than you were 10 minutes ago. Just listening to you, Mary, just talking about yoga. You haven't actually taken us through any exercises, but seriously, I just feel like I came down about 3 notches just talking to you. And that happens every time. I love that.
Let's tell my kids the same thing.
You're so sweet. You take them down 3 notches every time, I'm sure. One thing I would say about, well, first of all, it hadn't really ever occurred to me to go to yoga. And it was so long ago at this point, I'm not really sure what went through my mind. But I suspect if I were just being introduced to yoga now, I would think, okay, so that's going to require me to go out and get Lululemon gear, and I will probably look ridiculous relative to everyone in the class, and blah, 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 all of these things, right? And also, who has time to sign up for a class, and who wants to commit to a class when there's all this other stuff to do? And then you have to actually go to the class, all these things that we tell ourselves. So one of the many things I love about you is that, like you said, you help everyone and you meet them where they are. And you just give exercises that can be done in a chair for 3 minutes. It's not like you have to sign up for classes and take 2 hours out of your day.
Yeah, I love that too. It's taken a while to shift the mindset, right? Because people do have this idea, I've got to devote 90 minutes to a class or 60 minutes or, whatever it is. So I think more experienced teachers who are outside of the fitness realm of yoga, but more in the conversation around what is really yoga and what does this mean? Because the word yoga in Sanskrit is to yoke or to unite. And so we're uniting the sun and the moon energy. And that's why there are very energizing poses and things that help us feel strong and resilient and capable. And, we can do just a couple things that make us feel so good. And then that moon side, that very reflective, soft, feminine energy comes in. And it's I'm so close to burning out that all I want to do is check out. And instead of checking out, we learn to do other practices like restoratives and just postures that are so nourishing. And so it's yoga can really be what we need it to be because there are so many different ways to do it that when you find a teacher or you find a free YouTube channel or you sign up for an online studio or you read a book, however you access this information, it's the more you go into the practice and understanding, you're oh, this was created to help me in my mind. So since there's so much anxiety and depression in America, and it is all over the world, and this is becoming more of a mental health epidemic, the practice of yoga and meditation is a tool to really help people access their own internal tools so that they don't have to look outside for substances or distractions. Can we integrate some of these things so that we stay healthy and on that path of, but you're right, it's really hard, and I'm included in this, to make time for what we say is just one more thing. How do I do one more thing? And when you start to practice more, you start to realize, how do I not do this? I am such a better human being. I'm more responsive instead of reactive, right? I make different choices. I'm kinder. I move from a place of love and generosity instead of judgment and fear. And so what many yoga teachers have shared throughout the hundreds of thousands of years is that what you practice on the mat is how you show up off the mat. And so we come to our mat with the journey to have awareness of who we are, where we're at, what do we need, where am I at in a season of life, so that we step off our mat and we can engage in the world in a way that really aligns with our true selves.
That's so good. You sound like you've been doing yoga for over 20 years, Mary.
Well, don't get me wrong. I like to sweat and I like to exercise and I like a good workout, but I do other things now to do that because I've witnessed so many people hurting themselves in yoga.
Oh, really? Okay, so tell us more about that.
Well, our egos get in the way. We want to perform. So if whatever we're looking at, whether we're in a class with other people, that comparison comes out. It's hard not to. Oh, I'm fitter than them. I can do this. If they can do it, I can do this. And what we don't know is what's happening underneath, right? And so it's really easy to compare. And so what I really like, when I teach in person, I love to teach in spaces that, first of all, are in nature. I love outdoor yoga classes because there's just an element of connecting to nature. I love to be in spaces that do not have mirrors. No one needs to look at themselves, right? This is a practice of feeling what's going on inside, not how do I appear on the outside? Because who cares? A really experienced yogi is someone who can move through the practice in a state of ease and contentment, even when the physicalness of it is hard. Can your mind still stay in this place of ease and contentment? Or can I give myself permission to back off? Can I listen to what my knee is saying, what my hip is saying, what's going on in my back, so that I slow down enough to prevent injury? So that as I age, I'm going to age well, doing all the things I want to do because now I've paid attention.
Oh, it's interesting to me because I never really thought about the fact of someone, or the thought that someone would get injured during yoga, because it seems like such a time of renewal and healing rather than getting injured. However, as I say that, thinking back to certain things that I was unable to do in yoga, if I had really pushed myself, I absolutely would have gotten injured. I think part of it is I lack any sort of competitiveness. So I just thought, no, this isn't going to work out. And I just stopped. So what would you tell someone who recognizes the fact that maybe they don't have the sense of calm in their life that they would like or desire, and they probably don't even realize that they lack it because we don't stop long enough to actually think that through. But if someone does think, oh, you know what, I could actually use more, I could actually throw some calm into my life. I could actually remove some of the crazy in my life, and yoga would be great for me. What would you tell that person? Would you say, oh, you know what, it requires an hour a day, every day, or 2 minutes, or what words of wisdom would you share with that person?
Yeah. Well, of course you're going to know that I will say, no, it does not take an hour. However, it does take the curiosity to pause, to step away from all the distraction, even if it's just for a minute. So I'm happy to do that with you right now. Okay. So if you would like, listeners would like to do this, even if you're driving, and listening, keep your eyes open and just go with me. But if you can stop whatever you're doing and find a place to sit down with both feet flat on the ground and sitting up tall, that would be really lovely. So close your eyes and just rest your hands in your lap in a very comfortable position, and allow yourself to feel your body. Just notice how your feet are touching the ground. Notice how your hips are connected to the support you're sitting on. Notice how you are sitting upright. If there is sensations in your physical body that are familiar to you, or if you're noticing sensations that might be new. We're doing a mental scan of our physical body to bring ourselves into the present moment. Now shift your awareness to your breath. Notice how the mind can move from one thing to the next. And as you breathe in and breathe out, let your mind feel the breath. So I'm going to encourage you to breathe through your nose if you can. But as you breathe in, can you sense and feel the breath is cool? And as you breathe out, do you notice that it's warm? So we can pay attention to the temperature of the breath, which is a physical sensation. But you can also now pay attention to the flow of the breath. Is the breath smooth, or are there pauses? Does it feel rushed? Or are you in a place where the breath is at ease? Our breath can tell us a lot about our mental state. And as we stay just breathing, the breath becomes a bridge between mind and body. So now I'm going to invite you to count your breath mentally to yourself and count your breath on an inhale of 4 or 6. And then exhale for that same number. So this is an even breath. Inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 4, or whatever number you choose. In Sanskrit, this is known as samavriti, same breath, and it begins to balance your energy, your body, your mind, so that the transition from inhale to exhale now becomes smooth. There's no holding, no pausing. And you might even feel like you can increase that length to a 6 or an 8. And as the breath slows down, you start to feel yourself moving into a state of equanimity, to a state of ease. And the mind becomes calm because you've given it something to focus on. This slow rhythm of breath coming in and going out. And if your mind gets distracted, which it will, you kindly remind it to come back. Feel the breath move in. Feel the breath move out. So just one more cycle. And when you're ready, let your breath return to a more natural rhythm, and you can open your eyes. So this can really help calm down when we're getting ready for a meeting. It can really help us as we're getting ready for bed and trying to go to sleep. And there's a wonderful practice where you extend the exhale. So the inhale might be 4 counts and the exhale might be 6 or 8 counts. And when you extend the exhale, you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that is the rest and digest and recover. So this is a wonderful tool that we have always accessible to breathe out longer, and that will help us calm down and relax. So I encourage all of you who are listening, when you find yourself in that state of anxiety, for whatever reason, maybe you see a name on your phone that's calling in. You can take a few breaths, or even breathe while you're driving, while you're talking. The cool thing about the breath is that no one has to know that you're doing something different. It's not an external thing. And that's why the power of meditation is, again, can be done 1 minute, 5 minutes, 20 minutes. There's no right or wrong. It's just showing up consistently. And the more you consistently show up, even for short periods of time, your brain drops into that state that much quicker, which is why when you said Shavasana is easier now, your mind was not ready to go into that state because you weren't used to it. We are so programmed to ping everywhere in a million directions and constantly be on alert that when we don't know what time it is, how much time has passed, our eyes are closed, we're supposed to just surrender control. It's like, what? And you want to know, what's this teacher doing? Is it going to be 3 minutes? Is it going to be 5 minutes? Will it be 10 minutes? Tell me. I just want to know.
I was so anxious that first class. I think this is supposed to be relaxing, and the exact opposite is happening to me right now. I can't see a clock.
Yes.
It's dark. I'm supposed to have my eyes closed. Are you kidding me?
So I appreciate that this was a part of the conversation today, because a lot of people, they just think going to a yoga class, I'm just going to move my body. I'm going to do all the things. But when you really understand the gift of the doing and the being, you're like looking forward to like Shavasana. It's like the dessert. And you feel gypped when the teachers don't do it very long.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I just want to, because it's like permission. It's like, this is your time to relax, right?
Yes. And so Shavasana by itself, by the way, can be your yoga practice.
Oh, yeah.
Just lay down and just be for like set a timer for 5 minutes. So you really can just be. And the timer goes off and you could say, hey, I just did a yoga practice.
Such a good point, Mary, because it's not like you have to do, I don't know, a certain number of minutes of anything before you just be for 5 minutes or 3 or whatever. One thing that I have noticed about yoga, and even if it's just stretching or meditation or whatever, is it's one of those things that I recognize that I haven't when I haven't had it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, why am I so irritable? Why am I so especially tense right now? It's, oh, wait, I haven't even, done Shavasana for 2 minutes today. I think it's like, like working out, but in a different way. Just you recognize when you're not experiencing that and you're more irritable and all the things that you said in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I continue to practice. So I've been really blessed. For the first 20 years of teaching, I taught at Plymouth Church in Des Moines, and it was our home. Every Monday night at 5:30, there would be an in-person practice. And it was just like this wonderful kula, which means community, of anywhere from 25 to 40 people that would show up. And the energy when you practice with other people is so tangible. Right. And then it makes that Shavasana even more luscious, which is why studios survive, because people want that human connection and that energetic feel. But when the pandemic came, I had this huge community that I wanted to keep teaching to, and I wasn't a studio owner. And so I had to quickly figure out, well, how are we going to keep doing this? Because it's so valuable to all of us. And that's when I did a lot of research and invested in an online platform. And I now manage an online studio so that people anywhere can either join me in a live stream class twice a week, or they have access to my library. What I love about this is if I would have been doing this for 24 years, I cannot believe the library I would have had. And I would have been so fun to just watch me evolve, right? Because as a teacher, like the more lived experience you have, you evolve and so, or one would hope. So, anyway, so even in the 4 years that I have recorded classes, like my library now has 450 classes, and I've been able to create all these different types. So what's really fun about this platform that I use is that people can search, do they want a 10-minute class, a 20-minute class, a 60-minute class, like based on time, based on level of intensity, based on style of yoga, like if you want restorative or gentle or chair or a more traditional hatha yoga practice. And I even have it so that people can go, oh, I really need a neck and shoulder class. Like I have so much tension here. I want to filter by this, or my hips really hurt, or my back, or I want core strength, or I want an energizing practice. Like it's really been fun to write descriptions and think about class names. And my husband and son take a picture for me so that in my library, like that thumbnail, that's really taken the day that I teach a class, because I'm wearing the same clothes. My hair looks the same. What you see in the picture is what you get when you turn on the video.
Oh, I love that. Okay. One thing I want to point out is for anyone who is thinking, okay, I don't know what some of that stuff means. So you mentioned a particular type of yoga. I don't even remember what it was.
Hatha?
Yes. If there's someone who is who stops and thinks, okay, I don't know what that means. How would I possibly choose? I would encourage that person to think, okay, do you know if your hips hurt? Do you know if you're tense in your shoulders? And you can just try it, right? You don't need to know anything about yoga, right?
That's so true. And, I've taken that into consideration because there's so many folks that I've encountered over the past years of like, how do I even get started? I'm totally lost. And so I've curated some of my favorite classes that are perfect for beginners, like an intro to yoga. So people can really go on a journey a little bit and have it mapped out for them. But for those who are more explorative and maybe they've been on this journey, maybe not right now, but in the past, and they know a little bit, then they can kind of navigate it themselves. Or maybe you just show up when I teach the class live stream and you go, well, whatever Mary does is going to be good enough.
Right. And if I can't do all of it, that's fine. Okay, whatever. You did more than if you didn't do it.
Yeah, because I love what happens is we open the classes 15 minutes early so we can have community. Because that's really one of the gifts of coming together in community is talk to each other, support each other, has some accountability to it. And then they all turn off their cameras and they mute themselves and the class is just me. So they don't have to worry about how they look to anyone. And then we do the practice together and it's recorded so that it can be saved later. But then if they are doing it live stream, if they want to, they turn their cameras back on at the end and we all say goodbye.
Oh, that's great.
So it feels like you're together even though you're at home.
Oh, that's great.
It's kind of the best of both worlds. Yeah. It's like, I don't have to get dressed up, drive in the cold or in the dark or whatever the thing is, but I still want to be with people.
And that's a real reason, right? Especially in Iowa in winter, the idea of just going to your car, putting a coat on, all of that. Those are valid reasons to not go anywhere. So I love that. And then there's that community. Something I would love for you to talk about a little bit, Mary, is how exactly, and I don't know, to what degree you want or can explain this, but how exactly should someone breathe? And the reason I'm asking you to talk about this is because when I was, I don't know, in my 30s, I don't know, somewhere between the age of 20 and 49, which is where I am now, I went to physical therapy. And though my PT said, because I had headaches a lot of my life, and the PT asked me to breathe. And I just thought, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why am I breathing? And then she told me I wasn't breathing right. And I thought, are you kidding me? I mean, I've gotten this far in my life. Clearly, I know how to breathe, right? But and she's lovely, by the way, but I just was so confused. But I was breathing. When I was breathing, my shoulders would raise, right? And I thought, how have I gotten this far in life? And of course, I've had headaches if I'm not even breathing right. So could you just talk a little bit about that? Because it's something I had never, ever considered in life. And I don't think we teach people how to breathe. So I trust that you can.
Well, I can a little bit, right? There's a fantastic book called Breath, and it's written so well. And it talks about all of the scientific things about breathing. And that's a whole thing. But what I can do now to kind of keep us in line with that calm sense of like, how do I help decrease the stress and anxiety so that I can breathe well, so that I can reduce headaches and I can reduce the tension in my jaw or my neck or whatever. But that diaphragmatic breathing, that breathing down into your belly is so helpful. So what I like to do is teach people, and again, you can do this with me now or try it later. Put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Then close your eyes again so that you're not paying attention to anything, and just take a deep breath and notice which hand moves more. Okay, so breathe out and open your eyes. If you are the person that says, yes, my chest moved more, you're breathing more in your upper lungs. This is a more energetic breath. There's more tension in the neck and shoulders. But if you were someone to say, oh, I actually felt my top hand stay still, it was my hand over my belly that moved, then you notice the breath went down And the diaphragm, as it went down, helped the belly go out, so that when you exhale and you force the air out of your lungs to go out, that's when the diaphragm goes up and your belly goes in. So if you continue to hold your hands, one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, you keep your top hand pretty still and just move your bottom hand. And then it's like you can feel the breath move into the belly. So from an energetic perspective, the energy of the breath goes down. And then when you exhale, it goes up. And it's very grounding then. Now, you can also teach yoga where when you inhale, the energy goes up. And when you exhale, the energy goes down. Energy in Chinese and medicine, or in Ayurveda medicine, it's like that's chi or prana, the words that are used in a lot of Eastern medicine practices. So not only is the air that we are bringing into our body, our breath, but of course, then the whole concept of breath of life and this whole energy. And we can manipulate the breath and the energy flow, which is what direction we're intending the breath to move in. So that's called pranayama. That's a whole another limb of yoga. And that's where the asana, or the movement part, is bridged. Pranayama bridges the meditation and the contemplation component, which is in Sanskrit called dhyana and dharana. So there's this beautiful sequence that's taught in yoga. It's like, okay, let's get our body really opened so that the breath can flow with ease, so that the mind can ultimately be in a state of contentment.
Oh, that is so cool. And I love that you know all of this and you can just spew all these words and they make sense. And it just, I just love all of your explanations to things.
Oh, thanks. Well, it does help. I think for a lot of us, like I shared with you in the beginning, I'm a seeker. I've been curious. I want to know why. And as I've learned, it helps reinforce why I put the effort in. Why do I keep doing this? It definitely has rewards. There's a lot of mental health in my family. There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of, for most of us, people are suffering. I didn't know it at the time, but when I found the practice of yoga, it really ended up being something that has saved me in so many ways. And it has reminded me that whatever else is going on out here, whoever doesn't like me, whatever job I don't get, whatever is my kids don't like, really we are invited to just keep coming home to ourselves. And like we are made to be this unique, amazing human being. And this just uncovers the light. So that's why at the end of a yoga class, and this maybe can be the last thing that I share, but the word namaste, the reason why it's shared, it means the light in me honors the light in you. And the practice of yoga is to uncover so that the light can shine. Because we as humans keep putting more and more things on us. The shoulds and the titles and the responsibilities and all the things, and we get buried. And the practice of yoga is to like help us, and many other practices, not just yoga, but this is the one I like, right? It's like, it's to uncover that and be like, no, like who you are, keep showing up as you. You are amazing.
And we lose sight of who we actually are. And I think we often don't even recognize the suffering that we may be going through. I mean, and you're a great example of that. The fact that when you first did yoga, you broke into tears. It's not like you went into the class thinking, okay, this is going to be, where I express all the emotions from all of these years, right?
Oh my gosh. No, I was scared. I was like, no one's looking, right? Wipe all the tears off my face. I don't want anyone to see that I was crying.
Because we're just supposed to be fine all the time.
Yes. And then because I wanted to give permission to people to experience it too. Like, how awesome is it to hold space for others to just be themselves? Like, that's so rare. And that's such a value for me and the way that I want to keep showing up. And I think that's what's helped me be successful as a yoga teacher and why I have all these awesome older people in my classes. Like my age, like I'll have 20-year-olds, but I have a lot of 80-year-olds because they've learned to just come as they are.
Yeah.
And it like we are all practicing together. It does not matter.
And you just have that way about you anyway. I mean, I absolutely feel like I can do whatever, be whatever I want to be around you. And you just welcome that. And then when you have this sense of calm and you're doing yoga in addition to that, it's just, I mean, it just makes so much sense that 80-year-olds would practice with you and just know that, oh yeah, it's fine. Mary's going to take care of me. You have just such a welcoming demeanor, and yeah, you're just an amazing person all around, Mary. So I love that you're doing this and helping the world. Okay, I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, what would you tell the younger version of yourself, knowing what you know now?
Thank you for the opportunity to think about this. I have uncovered for myself all these different quirks that we all have, right? And I used to be so ashamed. I used to think like why do I cry so much? Or, I worry about this or I think about this. And I would just tell my younger self just to trust and like to remember that you are just this beautiful human being. And just to keep showing up as you. I'm grateful that I am on this journey. This practice probably helped guide me to who I am quicker than I would have gotten otherwise. And I was so afraid for so long, like once I got injured, that not being able to perform in a certain way in my own physical body was going to be just life-altering in a negative way, and it was life-altering in a positive way.
Oh, that was so well said. And I'm sure you felt like, you lost your identity, at least how you identified yourself, who you identified yourself to be at that point in your life. And you were in your early 20s, or you were 20, right?
Oh. I tore my ACL when I was 14 and 15 years old. It was awful. 15 and 16. Oh, it was awful. And I was in a wheelchair in high school for a couple of years because of the way they rebuild my ACL, and it was awful. And my younger self had a lot of shame. The work of Brene Brown and growing up with Oprah and Ellen on these TV shows and these incredible books that I have read in my life. It has all been so life affirming.
And I love that you've accepted your quirks. Who wants to hang around with people who don't have any quirks? That would just be so boring, wouldn't it?
No kidding. Yeah, no thanks.
That must be why you and I like each other so much.
Let's just be real. Yes. I just want to be real. Let's just be real.
Okay, my last question for you, Mary, is where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So my website is just my name. It is mary-mccarthy.com. And it's so fun. This website is fun. There's a Meet Mary page, and it has my phone number and my email and where you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So really that's the place to go. And you can do yoga with me by joining my online studio and even trying it for free for a week. Just come and explore.
I love it. Mary, this has been such a joy, as it always is, to hang out with you. And I feel seriously so much lighter just having been with you, and then to go through the breath work with you. It's just an amazing feeling. So thank you so much for sharing that with everyone who's listening today. And thank you for being here and for being my friend.
I'm back at you.
All right. Thank you so much to Mary. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. I am certain that you are a lot calmer than when you started listening to the episode. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your holiday season. And thanks for listening to the Dash Mindset. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Dash Mindset podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player, tell your friends, and leave us a review. Follow me on my social media platforms highlighted in the show notes, and get in touch with me at thedashmindset.com. Share the topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Thanks again for listening to the Dash Mindset podcast. We'll see you next time. Design and differentiate your Dash your way and make today amazing.